And I should,
Than the
let's
children's
see if
normal
this mic
IQ
works
status
today.
score below average in math, even for the kids who had the more mild form of iron deficiency.
Dr. Halderman says that while kids are screened for anemia, we should also note the level of iron deficiency and use diet and perhaps supplements, which may help teens perform better in school. With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
How do you know if your sump pumps
Hey
are
everybody,
working?
how you
More
doing
importantly,
today?
how do you know if they're not? At Permaseal, we know the only way to ensure your pumps are in working order is to test them every day. We all lead busy lives. Most people don't even think about their sump pumps until there's a big mess in the basement. Permaseal can now offer you exclusively
Pastor?
the best solution to keeping your basement and crawlers
Yes, good morning.
all the time.
Honey, how you doing?
Introducing the Basement Defender, the only device that will activate
Yes, good morning.
How are
How
you?
are you?
Pumps every day.
Honey, I've been a little
Good.
under the
We'll also
weather. I'll
test and
tell
alert
you
to
more.
changes in your basement
Why you have
temperature
not
and
heard
humidity
from me.
levels, which can help avoid frozen pipes and
Okay.
costly.
All right, hearing everyone loud and clear.
Just
Under
these
customers
things,
have the
honey, these
ultimate
things
peace of
happen.
mind. They know that
You
their
know?
pump is working properly,
And
allowing them to rest
I've,
peacefully during storms.
Just had
Call
to step
Permaseal
back.
and ask about the
I'm gonna
Basement
take off
Defender.
a couple of days next week
800-421-SEAL or visit Permaseal.
so that I can get my, because I've been averaging 3 hours of sleep a night.
Hey, hi, Miss Jackson. All right,
Yeah.
I hear everyone loud and clear on the Facebook. I'm going to run to the back and check how much time before the show starts.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Henry. Let's have a great show.
Yeah, let's do it.
But how are you doing?
I'm getting a little better each day.
Give yourself some time.
When your kid can't
Talking
find
to-
the language,
Talking to one of my dear
Yeah.
girlfriends
and get tips and tools to start a conversation at
it's
sounditouttogether.org.
about
Brought to you by
this.
Ad Council and Pivotal
Because
Ventures.
I just, we're
The
just at that
possibility
age.
of lung cancer can be pretty scary,
Well, this
especially
becomes,
with approximately 8 million current or former
you've been
smokers
blessed to
at high
have it
risk.
this long.
That's
This
why
is what
SavedByTheScan.org
can
wants you to
happen.
know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose
That's
CT
right.
scan that can detect
I
lung
say
cancer
can
early,
because
and it only
it
takes
doesn't have
60
to,
seconds. You stop smoking. Now
Father
start
said, one of
smoking.
his greatest
For an
fears
easy
would be
quiz to see
burying
if you're
his
eligible,
children.
visit SavedByTheScan.org. It
Oh,
can save
yeah.
your life.
Because I got really sick a
SavedByTheScan.org is
few
brought to you
years
by the
ago.
American Lung
And he was
Association,
like,
Lung Force Initiative, and the
I
Ad
have
Council.
not come this far.
Transitioning from being
To
a
bury
Marine
That's right.
to
I'm not,
civilian
that
was
I'm
very
not going
hard.
to
I
do. So
lost
we're
my
going to work
purpose.
this out
I lost the drive that I
because
had.
I needed to have surgery. And it
It's a
was
very dark
going to be very
and lonely
costly,
place
and
to
the
be.
insurance
It
wouldn't
took
improve
me
it.
surrendering to myself to get
Mm-hmm.
the help that I needed.
And my father was like, well,
At
your
my
mother
very
and I
first
fill out a
Wounded Warrior
mortgage. I was
project
like,
event,
nah, we're not
I
going to do
met
that.
Hi, Miss Jackson. We got
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you.
You need to have the
I
courage
can't.
to forgive yourself
That I
for
cannot
things you
handle.
felt about.
But
I got
that is not
impacted
your
Mhm.
call.
by a hand.
That
One
I am
night,
not
my depression
gonna bury a
kept telling
child.
me, you can end this.
done many
Right.
things in this
Just
life. He said,
before
that is
I
one of the
was
things
about
I'm
to
not
pull
going
the
to do.
trigger, I
He
looked
said, you will
down
say last
at my
words over
hand,
me.
and
Ooh,
that's what saved my life.
I said,
that night.
Lord Jesus,
Mhm.
It was the beginning
that I
of
do not
my
want to do.
incredible
But,
journey with the Wounded Warrior
the
Project.
blessing
See how we help
know,
warriors combat
Yeah.
to
at
have this wonderful
woundedwarriorproject.org/combat
daddy.
stigma.
My dad served in
Daddies
Vietnam,
are, particularly the
82nd
daughters,
Airborne
are
Division.
underestimated
He never
in
talked
this
about
life.
and my mom knew not to
The
ask.
impact that they
Mhm.
have
Dad
on our
buried
lives.
himself in work and
And we find that
self-medicated and
many,
would lose his temper
the
sometimes.
Williams sisters,
Loud
they
noises
keep
would put him
pivoting
on edge.
to their father. Not
It
that their
got
mother
rough.
means any less,
So I finally said to him,
but having that
you
protection,
gotta get help.
Yeah.
As a family
that father who would
Mhm.
stop that
you
interview
may
when
be
these
the
folks would
first
come
to
in on
notice
them.
when a
He's like, no,
veteran
no,
you
no, you
love
ain't gonna
has
do
been
this to
going
my
through
children. I
changes,
spent too
things
much
like
time.
withdrawing, drinking more, or increased anger.
I put too
Could be
much
a sign
in
of a
them.
larger health concern, but help is available.
And he would talk to my
Mhm.
father about it
Finally
too.
went to VA for one-on-one
Mm.
and group
He
therapy.
calls from
And got some
Wimbledon
really great
because our
tools to
Saturday
help him
morning
manage
forum has
things.
been on television
I
over
got my
there.
dad back.
Listen
And
to
he would
hundreds
watch
of
before he
inspiring
go
stories
before he
at
go to the match.
maketheconnection.net. And how you can support the veterans
You
in
know,
your
just
life.
very supportive.
Treatment works.
But he understood.
Recovery
Yeah.
is possible.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
because he kept them in touch.
Stand by.
Thank you. Their negritude, you see how strong they were. You get weakened when you step away from yourself.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am green.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It is a joy to be with you today as we commence Labor Day weekend. Wow. Can you believe the summer of 2023 is pulling into the station? I can't believe it. I want you to meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. And I want to hear from you today. What do you make of the latest in the Trump case? We're going to be talking about that today. It seems that former President Trump is trying to sever himself from those who want a speedy trial. What will that mean? And Labor Day. Let's look at the real state of labor. I mean, it turns out that the gap between executive pay and worker pay continues to widen. It would take workers, the average worker, 2 lifetimes to make what one executive makes in 7 hours. Did you hear what I just said, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams? 2 lifetimes to make what an average worker makes in 7 hours. Something about that's not right. You know it's not right. People cannot go back, cannot feel good about going back on these jobs, and they're not. You know, Dr. Max Wolf, our economist on this show, said, look, the world that we left at the beginning of COVID is not the world we're returning to. So I want to know what your thoughts are today. I mean, you tell me what you think the state of the worker is. How are you being treated on your job? How are the people you know being treated on their jobs? I mean, what do people want out of the workplace? What do you want out of not just your wages, but out of the money you make? Are we getting a prosperity wage? The median rent in America today is $2,000 a month. Who can afford that? Most people who work a wage job cannot afford to live in the city, cannot afford to rent, let alone buy in the cities in which they live. That's not right. So let's talk about that with Dr. Julianne Malveaux, but also let us talk about what's happening, the latest and the greatest in the Trump trial. It's going to be televised, everybody, because it's going to be a state trial. So you're going to get a chance. This is going to be must-see TV. You can't make this stuff up. Ooh, 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 ooh. And pay attention to what's happening on the right, too, because it's getting very personal. They're beginning to really push out a lot of information, and you don't want to be lopsided. Lopsided is when you have everything on one side. You want to have all the information. So let's get to the Santita Jackson Show, some of these headlines so that we can get right to where we need to be. Donald Trump pleaded not guilty in the Georgia election case yesterday. The written plea means former President Trump won't return to Atlanta on Wednesday when arraignment hearings for him and 18 other defendants are scheduled. Mitch McConnell released a letter saying he's, quote, medically clear, close quote, to work. Why? Because the Senate Minority Leader froze again while speaking in public this past week, and everybody's very concerned about him. Wherever you are in terms of your politics, this is a human being, and people are worried. And they're worried that he might be too ill or too old to continue to serve. The letter released yesterday was from the attending physician of Congress. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas reported 3 more trips on a private jet. Now, for his portion, he said that he was advised that for safety reasons, he should not fly commercially. So what about me? His latest financial disclosure was released yesterday. It confirmed the 2022 trips on billionaire Republican donor Harlan Crow's plane. They are close, aren't they? A record number of families crossed the U.S. border illegally last month. The U.S. Border Patrol arrested at least 91,000 migrants who crossed as a part of a family group in August, according to new data. And the nation's schools are short of 100,000 mental health staff. That is very, very, very dangerous as we go into the first big weekend of the college football season, everybody. In Chicago, we will have a high of 79 degrees. It will be clear. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 81 degrees. It will be clear with scattered clouds throughout the day. The Twins will be facing the Rangers. The Cubs will be facing Cincinnati, and the Tigers will be here in Chicago facing off against the White Sox. In the WNBA, the Liberty will be facing the Sky on Sunday, but today the Dream will be facing the Lynx at 7 p.m. Everybody get out and get those tickets. Did you see that the volleyball match, the college volleyball match, where they had more than 90,000 people. That's the largest turnout for a for a woman's sporting event in history. But look, they need to ask the women something, because I remember these girls have been so tough and they've been such ratings getters. Do you remember Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams when they had to move the final of the they started moving the final of the US Open to the nighttime so that they could catch prime time,
Yes.
because that is what they've been. The Packers will be playing the Bears this evening. So, look, when people are great, like Simone Biles, when people are great, you just want to see them. If they wanted to invest in this WNBA, as we do when we see them during the Olympics, women playing basketball, we want to see them. You love watching people who are great at what they do, right? So, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, I'm sending you so much love today. Everybody, get her book. I see you, sis. I see you, sis. And I see her. Sending you so much love today. The pastor of the First Baptist Church in Bridgehampton, New York. Yes, out there in the Hamptons. But she brings a little stole out there. I love it. What's on your mind today? How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Good morning, Santita. Good morning to all of the morning stars, and happy Friday. I want to
Amen.
talk to you about something that's really been blessing me on my journey. And with much reflection, that's how I discovered it. I didn't realize it at first, but I am a child of the earth. As a direct descendant of Sapelo Island, Georgia, one of the Gullah Islands, a daughter of Sapelo, I'm a daughter of the dust. And I've recently figured out what nature means to me, what connecting with nature and the elements means to me, connecting and giving praise and honoring Elohim, our creative God, the creator of our heaven and our earth. And what I have found is that there is great support for us in the earth. My dad recently passed, but my dad was a lover of the earth. He could grow anything. He had a green thumb. But I always shared in that. I've always shared in the love of nature and the love of earth. And so I want to encourage you today. I want to give you a short little excerpt from a new book, a new devotional guide that I write, that I hope will help you connect with elements. Every day, just connect and find the power in the earth. You have the grounding presence of earth that reminds us to stay rooted and connect with our true selves. Earth roots us, it supports us, it recognizes our stability and helps us remain grounded in our lives. Earth provides nourishment and sustenance, and I hope we can find that same strength and stability in our relationship with Earth. We want God to help us remain rooted in our truth and to cultivate a compassion for all living things. And so today, connect with Earth, play in some dirt, sift through some soil, sit among plants, mold or play, walk barefoot on the walk barefoot in the grass, eat your root vegetables, and maybe try to do a meatless meditation day. When it comes to grounding, there's no limit to things that you can do to connect, to root yourself, and to ground yourself. And then there's water, the ever-flowing currents of life. We honor water. Water is like a river that cleanses and renews. And so we want water to wash away our sorrows and purify our hearts. We learn from water to be adaptable and fluid and flowing challenges that come our way. And so I pray that you would embrace empathy, kindness, and nurture the seeds of love and water and fluidity that are in all of us. Pour a glass of water, drink deep of water, get a fountain, record ocean sounds, pray or meditate at your local body of water. And lastly, and most easily, just take a relaxing bath. And then fire. Fire saved me in pandemic. One of the first things I did when we were forced to go into quarantine, we went to Home Depot and bought a fire pit because I was like, I can't sit in the house all day. I have to be able to enjoy nature and fire, the transformative energy that ignites our souls. We reference fire. Fire consumes and transforms. And so I want your spirit to ignite a passionate flame within you. I hope that you'll be able to use fire to illuminate the darkness in your life, to bring warmth and light to those in need. And I pray that your actions be driven by fire, to have a passionate love and your energy be fueled at all times. So fire, light a candle, Sit outside by the fire pit, use incense. And if you have a fireplace, the holidays are coming, use it. And air. The air that we breathe carries our thoughts and our words. It carries our wisdom. And just as air connects all living beings, I hope that we can seek to foster unity and understanding in humanity. So we pray for the freedom to express ourselves authentically and listen with open hearts. Enjoy the air today. Go outside for a walk. Use the face, listen to white. Most importantly, breathe deeply. Do you know that breath is the only know where it lies? That when you inhale and exhale, it's a clear indicator that you're alive today. So take some deep breaths and enjoy the air today on September 1st. And lastly, the spirit is spirit. And spirit, we are connecting to divine energy that permeates all create, and present ourselves in we beyond comprehension and yet connected to us. So today I'm inviting you to use spirit to surrender your ego and align your soul with God's divine will, that you might be a blessing for love and light to shine forth in the world. So go outside, listen to soft music. Go outside, write a prayer, listen to soft music, diffuse an essential oil, and just connect with spirit today. And so that's the good news, Santita. We have a whole earth as our playground. And so today, I hope that you can find inspiration with the elements every single day. And that's the good news.
Amen. 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 And amen. I have a couple of questions related to that, if you don't mind. Um, my mother's been like Mother Earth. She has always done a lot of things that people found to be a little offbeat. She always
Sure.
kept a garden, no matter where we lived.
Yes.
She always had plants around, always, always, always. And she said it makes
Yes.
our air, it makes the air in the house cleaner. And you need to grow, you need to learn how to take care of something, to tend to a garden. I mean, that was her thing with
Oh,
us.
yes.
So everybody had to water the plants and prune them and on and on. But she also, we walked around the house barefoot because
Mm-hmm.
she
Absolutely.
wanted us to feel, and the house was very warm too. But she said, no, I want you to. It turns out when you look at reflexology, that was very, very wise because you were really stimulating different parts of your body. But she never has
Yes.
believed in all of this, I guess, falseness and covering up. And she said,
Mm-hmm.
we were a much more peaceful people when we were connected to the earth.
That's right. That's right.
What do you think about that?
I think your mother is spot on, and she sounds like a daughter of the dust herself.
She is. She's from South Florida.
We are called. There you go.
And
We are
she's
called
the daughter
to
of
connect.
migrant workers. So, I mean, my grandmother
Yes.
picked beans. My grandfather is from the Caribbean, and he went back there because he found racism in the United States to be so abhorrent that he left when my mother was
Yeah.
about 4, and he never came back to the United States. He refused to put his feet on this soil because he felt that and he was a
Wow.
Garveyite too, so it was just, he said, I'm not going to do this.
Yes, yes, yes. I have it honestly. I come from a line of people who love the land and were growers. One of my uncles actually created a system to increase cotton growth during slavery
Oh
times.
my
And
goodness.
yes, I come from all of that. And so, yes, your mother is absolutely right. Keeping ourselves barefoot, I'm guilty of walking barefoot. It just keeps us connected to ground, especially in this day and age. When you think about the fact that we are so in love with cyberspace, we're always floating, if you think about it, right? Always floating. We're always moving around. Walking barefoot and connecting to earth keeps us grounded. Earth is all about roots and routine. And the other thing that I think is so important about what your mom shared is the transparency. Like you said, she wasn't for all of this covering up. So symbolic of being open and being accepting and willing. We always ask, but sometimes we have to be open to receiving. And being able to connect with earth helps us to receive that which the earth has to give us. And the other great thing about sort of enjoying earth, enjoying nature, is that you find that your mother is saying cultivate a garden. We learn so many life lessons about gardens and cultivating earth. I had a friend who recently, she and I were talking, and she said she moved to a place where there was an orchard, but the orchard was in disrepair because the person who owned the orchard passed on. And she would just go to the orchard every day and start cleaning it up. And she said before she knew it, the orchard became symbolic of her. And as she began to heal the orchard, she realized she was healing herself. And the more the orchard became clean and organized, the more organized and clean she became. And so that's a life lesson for all of us. And even when we look at the Bible, anytime there's a garden in the Bible, something major is about to happen. Something is about to take place, whether it's the Garden of Eden, whether it's the Garden of Gethsemane where Jesus prayed before he went to the cross. Transformation happens in gardens. And the other thing you have to notice is garden work is only on the surface. What we see on the surface is usually so beautiful. But if you take a moment to think about it, everything in a garden is fighting for its life. Everything is going on. And that's so symbolic of who we are. And we have a symbiotic relationship with trees and plants. We breathe out, they take in. What they breathe out, we take in. And so that's why it's so important. We are connected in so many ways. We're so much like plants. We're so much like trees than we even care to or understand. And so all of that is so important. And lastly, it really helps us see the power of God. You cannot look at something like a beautiful road or even something extraordinary as the Grand Canyon and not acknowledge a higher presence. Because we don't have the capability to make anything that beautiful or that extraordinary.
You know, what did they say in The Color Purple? I think God gets angry when you don't admire The Color Purple. And I just remember Steven Spielberg spanning that field and all of the beauty.
That's right.
All of the beauty.
That's right. And even from a womanist lens, they say purple, when we talk about womanism, womanism is purple is to lavender.
Mm-hmm.
It's the purple of lavender, what feminism is, right? So we look at feminism is lavender, but womanism, what we are rooted in as Black women, is purple. Mm-hmm. Womanism to feminism is purple to lavender. There's a strength in that. Mm-hmm.
And there's strength in womanhood. And that's why I think it's important for us to discuss these gender issues. Because, you know, there are lots and lots and lots of debates now about what a woman is in particular. It's interesting. You know, trans men don't have this argument. They don't have this discussion. But women are finding ourselves having to defend our womanness. And maybe I'll step on some toes. I certainly don't mean to. You know, I never seek to offend anyone, but I certainly do seek to speak the truth. And there's something special about a woman. I mean, God made us last, and God trusted us enough. Not that he doesn't love men, but he didn't trust you enough to carry life. He did that. He trusted me enough to do that. I'm the vessel of that. And there's nothing you can do to change that. You can't undo that. Whether you're born a child or not, you can't undo that. And I think that we have to appreciate what everybody brings to the mix. But perhaps if we get back to nature, a lot of these discussions will be resolved. Maybe. I see you, sis. That's the book. I mean, maybe, you know, because, you know, my brother Jonathan said we were riding one day, and sometimes, you know, bless his heart, before he got these duties in Washington, sometimes he would call me and just say, you know, hey, you at home? Yep. Let me come by and get you. Here we go. Because I knew it was never something simple. It was something that was going to take an hour, 2 hours, 6, 12 hours. But I love my brother and enjoy him so much. And we went outside of the city. Because, you know, this is farmland. As is much of New York, as many people don't know. And he said, you've never seen a lazy farmer.
That's correct. That is so such.
Right? I'm going to give that, you know, it's, you don't. They have to tend to that garden every day. Oh, I just thank God for you, and I'm praying for your strength and for just precious memories that one day will make you smile and one day will make you laugh. I love you, Pastor.
Thank you.
Tisha
Love you
Dixon.
too.
Oh, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, the First Baptist Church of Bridgehampton, New York. You got to tune in on Sunday so that you will be blessed. Get the book, I See You, Sis. That book will bless you especially. Dr. Julianne Malveaux talking about the real state of workers. Why does it take a worker? Why does an executive in 7 hours they make more than a worker makes in 2 lifetimes? What? You can't make this stuff up. Back in just a minute. I just had to ask you these questions. You know, I start thinking. So, Pastor, thank you so much for indulging me.
Thank
you, because I didn't know where you were going today, but when you did that, I said, "Oh, this reminds me so much of my mom." And my mother gets on me. You need some plants. I'm like, oh,
healing.
Mama.
Yeah, I have an herb garden, and I absolutely love it.
You know what? I'm gonna get an herb garden. Let me start there. I bought these big old plants, girl, and then they died.
Yeah.
But it turns out they were not facing in the right direction, right? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I was so sad.
I get it.
Oh man, do you keep the herb garden in your kitchen, or are you able to put them outside?
In my yard. It's actually in my backyard, and it's part of a program with the child care center here in the community, where they partner with a child and one of our local farmers, and they help cultivate and grow gardens for people in the community. It's beautiful.
Why do they do it with children? Just out of curiosity.
To help them learn agriculture. Mm-hmm. To help them learn farming, culture, and what it means to take care of something, as you suggested. Mm-hmm.
Oh no, that's my mother's suggestion. She said, you can only grow when you take care of someone else.
How about that?
Else. You gotta care for more than yourself. She said that more than putting on your face in the morning. Oh! Oh no, my mother she goes right there. Oh, anyone who knows her, when you meet her, you'll see. She'll be like,
I can't wait.
Oh yeah, she's hard. Let's put it that way.
Hi, Miss Jackson.
I love it.
We have Dr. Malveaux ready to go.
Let me introduce you to this great woman. 2 great women meeting each other. Dr. Julianne Malveaux, President Emeritus of the Bennett College for Women, brilliant MIT-trained economist. And she's head of Push Excel. She's the chair of the board, she and Judge Greg Mathis. But brilliant public intellectual. And I want you to meet a real woman of God, Dr. Malveaux. And when you get to New York,
90 seconds.
Oh, thank you, honey. Just outside of New York, she's in Bridgehampton. She is the pastor of the First Baptist Church. Pastor Malveaux, she will really bless you. Honest to God. She is someone for you to know.
Wonderful to meet you, Dr. Malveaux.
Likewise, and good morning, all.
Good morning. Good morning.
Well, I love you, Dr. Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams. I thank you so much. And, I hope you have a beautiful weekend.
The same for you. I pray that something amazing happens for you, to you, and through you, to both of you today.
Oh,
have a great one.
Love you, girl.
Yeah. Love you too.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
How you doing, Dr. Malveaux?
I'm good. I'm down here in Montgomery at the Legacy Museum. Got the amount of damage that has been done to our people with all this lynching. Brian Stevenson is a genius. He's an utter genius that I've spent 2 days just doing some research, because my priority
30 seconds.
These next few months is to finish this book, and this is going to jumpstart me on the lynching part. So I'm okay.
I'd like to take people on a trip down there. We get these trips together.
It would be great. No, it would. People would be so enhanced. In fact, When I came in from being at the museum on Wednesday, mind you, I had to sleep in the Atlanta airport on Tuesday night, which my body is still protesting. Girl,
stand by.
Praying that I can get back to DC in one piece with all this weather stuff.
Yeah, but you had to sleep in
Can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. And I want you to meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Ashley King out of Memphis and Robert Williams. Hey, sending you all so much love today. And let me see, and Andre and Dave Dowling and Robert and Newport 348. Hey, Raphael Suleiman, how you doing, sweetie? Bob Smith, Mildred, sending you all so much love. Joyce, Barbara Bacon from Oak Park, of course. And sending you all so much love today. I'm so glad that you're here. D-Ray, what's up, girl? Jewel out there in New York City. Sending you all so much love today. It's Labor Day weekend. What does that mean? You know, we say we have these weekends, we're celebrating people, but do we really? You know, my mother's take on Mother's Day is, look, do not give me flowers on Mother's Day. Give them to me every day. Don't just pick out a day after all that I've done. And after all that labor does, and particularly working class people, and I would say just everybody, but you didn't know how necessary frontline workers, the people that you overlook when you walk in a building, you didn't know how central they were to our lives until the pandemic hit. Because they were the ones who had to go into the office. They could not work remotely. You can't clean remotely, sanitize remotely, make food remotely. You can't do those things. But when we look at how we treat workers, it really is astonishing how much contempt we have for them. And particularly when you look at the workers versus the executives. And there is a new report that's just been released from the Global Economy Project from the Institute for Policy Studies that talks about the executive excess that they found in 2023, which finds the low-wage 100 large corporations have spent more than $340 billion on stock buybacks since 2020. The CEO worker pay gap at the low-wage 100 averaged 603 to 1. What does that mean? The low-wage have spent more money buying their stocks back than replenishing the coffers of their workers. During these sprees, their personal stock holdings increased by more than a factor of 3. And over half of these low-wage 100 companies receive taxpayer-funded contracts. I mean, they're on the dole from the federal government. While they're getting mad with you and they have the corporate media calling you welfare queens and welfare kings, guess what? Harvard, which is the most indemnified school in the world, they have the biggest endowment. Dr. Malveaux, they are teaching their incoming students who are of need how to apply for food stamps. I'm like, what? And then we find that the top U.S. CEOs made more in 7 hours than the average workers made in an entire year. Something's not right here. You got to talk to me about the state of the workers. Because, the more you read this data, it's just astonishing, Dr. Malveaux. Or is
it's beyond astonishing. It's predatory capitalism at its absolute best. By that I mean the purpose of predatory capitalism is to take from the poor, to take surplus value from the poor and give it to the wealthy. And this is what you see here. When you look at a worker pay gap, 603 to 1, that means that the CEO makes 603 times more than the average worker, not the lowest paid worker, but the average worker. So you see people who are making millions of dollars, and then their holdings are enhanced when they choose, underline the word choose, to do a stock buyback because they own stock.
Well, what's a stock
buyback? The buyback gives them money.
What is a stock buyback?
Basically, it is the company decides to buy stock back from shareholders. So let's say you own X number of shares of Walmart stock or any kind of stock. That means that you own a portion of the company. The company, rather than have you own it and you, metaphorically, every shareholder, have you own it, they rather own it. So they buy it back from you. It's not anything you have any role in. They just say, we're going to do a buyback. And then your personal balance sheet will look like, I just made X $1,000 from the buyback. But what you made X $1,000, somebody made X $1 million. Companies buy stock back often to enhance their balance sheet, often to basically, although they would never say it, enhance their CEOs. Because all of these people come to work with a salary, but also usually stock options and sometimes just outright stock. A buyback gives them more money. So this IPS report is quite stunning in terms of looking at what they call the low-wage 100, the 100 companies that pay people the least. Now, let me put a pin in that for a minute, Santita, to say when Harvard or others are teaching people how to apply for food stamps, what we're really saying is that we taxpayers are subsidizing Harvard, subsidizing companies that are ripping us off. Live Nation, the entertainment company, had the widest CEO worker pay gap. The average worker at Live Nation makes $25,000 a year. The CEO makes $139 million a year.
Say that one more time, please.
The average worker makes $25,673 a year. The CEO, Michael Rapino, made $139 million a year. That's 5,400 times more than the average worker. Let me repeat that: $5,400 for the average worker. Now, if someone who makes $25,000 a year is in poverty, which he or she is likely to be, perhaps they're married and so there are two incomes coming into the household. But if that's a sole income, that's poverty. So that poverty worker has the opportunity to apply for food stamps, for Medicaid, for, you call it list, when their company could clearly afford to give them reasonable benefits. So, given that, we taxpayers are subsidizing that company. In other words, if someone who's working full-time, full year, has to apply for food stamps or health insurance or anything like that, it's coming from taxpayer coffers. How come their company doesn't pay them enough money? And don't tell me the company is destitute when you're telling me that the CEO makes $139 million.
How do they justify this?
They don't. They don't have to. They don't have to. What is happening, though, IPS has been a really great at working with this. What has happened, though, is that there have been pieces of legislation that have been passed that will try to rein some of this in. But you know who the Congress has been bought and purchased by the predatory capitalists. So although there's good legislation sitting out there as possibility, that legislation is not likely to be passed because what do we have? We have a Congress who has been purchased by predatory capitalists. Now, I want to say one other thing quickly, Santita. I mean, I appreciated what you said about the workers that we don't pay attention to. And one of the things that I think we also need to think about is the people who are organizing workers. Do you know, I'm here in Montgomery, Alabama, doing some research at the Legacy Museum, founded by Brian Stevenson, and walking through some of the exhibits they have. Do you know how many people were lynched because they tried to organize workers?
How many?
See, that really does speak to the fear that predatory capitalists have of people being able to be organized. Mm-hmm. People were lynched, Black men especially. No, I didn't see any Black women. Black men were lynched for organizing workers in New Orleans, here in Montgomery and other places. So on this Labor Day, I think we also want to think about the important role of organizers. Without organizers, we don't have the possibility of workers increasing their salaries. When you see a black man unionized and a black man ununionized doing the same job, the unionized worker is making a third more than the ununionized worker. The same is true of black women to a lesser degree. A unionized sister will earn 25% more than an ununionized sister. So the role of unions is very important, and the role of organizing is important. But what I did not know until I came here to do some work is how many black men were lynched for organizing.
But I think of A. Philip Randolph, who really started the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom movement. The first march he attempted to have in 1941. It has been organizing the Pullman car porters. And he was he was and is one of our iconic civil rights leaders because he was organizing us. I mean, coming out of slavery, this is what you deserve. I mean, because it seems that what's the difference between a slave and a paid worker? That might sound like a simple question, but help me with that. You're the economist.
Well, it's an interesting question in the context of today. Obviously, an enslaved person is someone who does not get paid for their labor, has no bargaining power, has no ability to improve their situation except to run away, which of course also had extreme consequences if they were caught. A paid worker theoretically has the agency to bargain for the terms and conditions of their work. But what, again, you find, I'm finding right now, Santita, and I'm stuck on this because I'm here, and it's driving me nuts to learn things that I thought I knew. But a man was lynched in 1868 because he dared ask his employer, his former enslaver, for a raise. So they lynched him. Sharecroppers had no ability at all to negotiate, and often they were cheated and had no way to essentially challenge that. Mm-hmm. But we have that right now in the 21st century when workers are, the federal minimum wage still has not been raised now in 12 years. Now, half of our states have higher minimum wages, but the federal minimum wage, which is basically what happens here in the South, still $7.25 an hour. Can you imagine?
No.
And when you look at people who are waiters and waitresses, their pay their minimum wage is something, depending on the state, between $2 and $5 an hour. They're expected to make up the rest of their living wage through tips, and which is a horrible throwback to enslavement when you basically had to bojangle to get paid. And the tip thing works the same way. If the person is not nice or whatever, you don't like the way they look, you don't necessarily tip them. A standard tip is 15 to 20%. And a lot of people use their judgment, their very warped judgment, to choose to tip less. I was just with a sister friend, and we had, words. She wanted to tip 10%. I said, why? That's not reasonable. Well, I didn't like her.
Are you serious?
We got it in a timely way. The waitress was a little snarly, but who knows what was going on in her life? So let's just give her 15 to 20%. So we had separate checks. She said she was giving 10 on hers. I said, okay, then I'm going to get 30 on mine.
That's all. Dr. Malvo, that's horrible. Because I'm trying to figure out what our thinking is too. And honestly, I've seen people try to do that. And my mother had a very dear friend, and they would, go to this to this mall here in Chicago. They had a couple of shops that my mother really enjoyed. And my mother said, when she'd come in and park her car, they were very friendly. Oh, Miss Jackson, how you doing? But when her friend would be driving out, they would get a little snarly My mother could never figure it out. She didn't realize that she had been tipping these people a quarter.
A quarter?
Do you
A
understand?
25-cent piece?
Do you
quarter.
understand what I'm saying?
Mm.
And my mother called me. She said, "Wait a minute. I just want to share with you what
A quarter?
I said, "Wait a minute." And now, mind you, this was a very well-educated woman. I mean, PhD, all of that. But I said, "There's something missing. I said, "She's got a missing chip." I said, "I told you something wrong with her." I said, who does that? And who quibbles over 15, 20, 25%, 30 even? Or, if you end up talking to the wait staff, as I always do, you might hear more about their story, and you're like, let me look at my purse and see if I have a little extra money that I can slip them on the way out, because you never know. And I'm sensitive, to the fact that my father waited tables to take care of me when I was a little baby, and my great grandmother was a housekeeper, and was a maid, and then a housekeeper. I mean, we come from that, Dr. Malvo, and from the most
I have
humble
a
of circumstances, and I don't understand. And everybody in America comes from nothing. Okay. So how we can,
well, not everybody.
Well, I'm just saying,
not
just
everybody.
generally speaking. I mean, it's a right wing nation. I get it. And we bring in the royalty and all of that. But the fact is, most people who come here are the huddled masses who are yearning to breathe free. But somehow or another, many people graduate to another level and they forget all of those lessons, Dr. Malvo.
Oh, they absolutely do. And, my great grandmother, Addie Hawkins, was a maid. It's a funny story, so I'll take a minute to tell you, in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And she met my great grandfather. He was a Pullman porter, but he also was a gambler. And so he asked her to marry him. They dated for a little while. And she said, "Only when you bring me your paycheck, the whole paycheck," for I think she said 3 months in a row. And he took him several months to get it together because he liked to gamble. He wanted the whole paycheck because she didn't want to be married to a gambler and have uncertain finances. And eventually he got it together, and so they did marry. But she was a maid in Cedar Rapids. I have a picture in my office of her sitting on a park bench looking very regal with a little hat on her head. And I always have it there because I say, she was a maid, so I don't have to be. Number one. And number two, if I ever say, "Oh, gee, I'm working so hard because I'm writing," I look at her and say, "This is not hard work. What I do is privilege. It is not hard work." But we all have those stories in our families, and we have to continue to talk about them because it will keep us humble and will keep reminding us of what our roots are and also of the value and the dignity in work. And this report from IPS also reminds us of the folks who would exploit.
Yes.
Who would exploit. And clearly revel in doing so.
Because being a maid, being a butler, being a driver, being a frontline worker, a janitor, a cleaner in the hospital, someone who serves the food. My grandmother, Gertrude Davis Brown, she was the person who would, the person who serves you food when you're hospitalized. And I remember when my father was running for president, we were down in Virginia, which is where she and her husband lived. And a couple of her supervisors were shocked that she was Reverend Jackson's mother-in-law. Because my father, adored my grandmother, who was another piece of work, as you recall. And he introduced her from the audience.
She was a character.
She was a character. I went back.
But then all y'all characters.
It takes one to know one, and that's why we love each other and get along. But and I remember the caginess with which they approached her after this particular rally, and I knew from their behavior that they had probably treated my grandmother with contempt. Looking down, they were the professionals. They had the white collar jobs. My grandmother did not. Even though she was ambitious to be a part of the middle class. That's why she worked so hard to get all of her children through college. That's why she went and got a college degree at 61 after getting a GED. It took her about 12, 13 years to work toward that. And I said, it's so sad. My pastor's wife, Mrs. Luther May Evans, our first lady of Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church, said, you must always remember because it's so dangerous to forget. And so when I think of Harvard teaching these, instructing, just like Walmart did, instructing these students how to apply for public assistance. Well, there's the wealthiest school in the world. I'm like, y'all can't figure out how to help feed these kids? I mean, I know about the Harvard eating clubs. I mean, and so do you. You're from MIT. I mean, you mean to tell me you can't figure that out? You mean to tell me this major corporation, you can't figure out wages? You okay?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's like you can't figure out wages that can pay people. You mean to tell me the average salary of the worker at Live Nation is $25,000 plus, but their CEO made $139 million? I mean, you think that's right?
Yeah, they think it's right. They think it's right because workers have that united. Because people are not, but I think we have a worker moment right now, Bill Sanchez, which is exciting. People are looking at strikes. At my old institution, Cal State LA, I'm no longer there as dean, are contemplating a strike because they were offered a 2% pay increase, which is well below. Last year, the president got, I want to say almost a 25% pay increase, and now he left. And there rumors are swirling about what his exit package was. But the fact is that faculty are talking about striking. The maintenance workers are talking about striking. And I don't want to lift up Cal State LA because they were very good to me, nothing to say. But it's an example of what's going on. The writers on strike, the actors on strike, UPS narrowly averting a strike. Workers are saying, pay me, just pay me. And after COVID, there's a whole different worker attitude. I mean, people are not necessarily grateful to have their jobs. They like having their jobs. They got to live. They got to eat. But it's like, do not take me for granted. And you see it all over the place. You see it in the labor market. You see it with folks just sort of pushing back. And they should be pushing back. And all of us who are conscious should be supporting them.
Dr. Julianne Malveaux, everybody. Dr. Julianne Malveaux talking about the real state of workers today. I mean, $25,000 for the average worker at Live Nation, and while their CEO makes $139 million. I'm not mad at you for making your money. But if you can't take care of the people who take care of you, who make you possible, something's wrong with that. It's not right. It's not right. Not right. Not right. What did Reverend say? It's a moral disgrace. It's a moral disgrace. It's a moral disgrace.
There you go.
It's a moral disgrace. I mean, we don't treat people with that kind of contempt. All work. I mean, these workers should be honored. White collar, blue collar, no collar. You honor people.
There you go.
Yeah. And if you don't think they're necessary, wake up and have your housekeeper call in sick one day. Your whole world comes apart. Wait a minute. Woman who does your nails, guy who does your nails. Oh, I can't take you today. Your hair. Oh, no. Yeah, no. Everybody's necessary. Everybody fits somewhere. Respect that. More than that, and honor it. I love you, Dr. Julianne Malveaux. Love you
more, Miss Santita.
Oh, thank you.
We'll talk soon.
I cannot
Have a great show and a great weekend.
Hurry up and get back to Chicago.
Absolutely. Let's talk about it.
All
Take
right.
care.
Yeah. Sending you so much love. Let's talk about the latest on the Trump case. It's a whole lot going on, everybody. Back in a few minutes on the Santita Jackson Show. Tune in to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Back in just a minute. Thank you, Dr. Malvo.
Hi, Miss Jackson.
Yes.
We have Attorney Sanat, Attorney Jones, Dr. Yuri, and Dwight McKee ready to go.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. Everybody doing? Hello, Attorney Sanat. Dwight McKee. Okay, clearly I cannot hear them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good morning. Good morning.
Attorney Sanat, how you doing?
Yes. Good morning. How are you, Sora?
Soror, it's great hearing your voice today.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, whenever I can get you, I try to get you on because you are absolutely brilliant.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I do too. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Dwight McKee, how are you?
Good, Claire. How about you?
All right, doing great. Doing great. Doing great. Doing great. Doing great. It's great to be with you all today. Okay.
Are we on Facebook too?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We
Okay,
are.
good.
We are.
I was having dinner with one of my girlfriends from high school, and believe it or not, we were talking about this. So.
Oh, this case?
Yeah. So I want to make sure to give her a shout out.
Okay, please, please, please do. It's
Yeah, she's a lawyer as well.
Okay, I love it.
Mm.
I love it, love it, love it. I'm so glad that you're here today because there's just no shortage of anything to discuss.
Yeah.
In this moment,
Mm.
you can talk about something all day long. But I think we need to pay attention to everything. That's part of we're so
They
siloed.
have a lot of news articles on it. They have a lot of news articles on it.
Yeah, they do. I think that even when you disagree with the news organization, with the political slant, I think you need to read it all. And I think that that's one of the things that we do not do, and that to me is a real big mistake. You need to listen to. You need to hear everything, and hear the different perspectives because there's a lot of nuance in all of this stuff. Lots and lots of it.
I feel like we're the last generation to read. I think the generation after us doesn't read very much. You have really quick information through YouTube, and you have all those editorials, and that's how you get confused and things like that.
Absolutely. Well, it's hurtful.
Oh, somebody's got a blender.
Oh no, that's me, honey, and my little engine that could. I bought a new printer, a laser jet. Yeah, I bought a laser jet, and I'm like, and I said, oh, but I love this computer. I love it so. I love this one so much. It's been my honey bun. I love it. I love it. Oh yeah, but I've got a lot of things I've got to do. So eventually, I'm going to move. Once I move this, I'm going to move everything over because I've got a lot of. I've got to reconfigure. I'm going to move my office out of my dining room. How about that?
How about that?
I am so sick of this. Let me just be honest with you. I mean, COVID, you had to hurry up and make a makeshift studio. And
right.
I want my dining room back.
It's so interesting. A lot of people from, the pandemic have not been able to return either to
to their jobs or to business.
Mm-hmm.
And downtown Chicago just looks so barren about 6:30, 7 o'clock.
Isn't it awful?
Very interesting.
I'm like,
Yeah, they weren't able to pivot the way that you were able to pivot, you know?
well, the thing is, I had the blessing of being able to, to work from home, right? Um,
Right.
Everybody can't do that. And now there's one of the shows that I do, I have to go into studio, although I have the equipment on my computer and at home to do the show from home, because you can broadcast from home. But for a lot of reasons, we decided for me to go into the studio. So I at least had to go there once a week. But if anyone, of course, in the place had COVID, you couldn't go in. But I was like, look, we can still do the show. I got all this. But it's been a lot. It's been a lot, and I think we just have to really, really, really be mindful.
We have a minute.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now who do we have? Yes. Yeah, and Anastasia, what you say?
I was going to say I saw your dad in the Black Godfather docuseries for Clarence Avant.
Oh boy, and he made his transition.
Wow.
Oh,
yeah, I found out about when he went to his wife. He would also appear in the docuseries. I just think it's such a cruel world.
Oh yeah. That was an interesting documentary, but you can't tell the story of black moguls in the record industry because he was the true owners were Berry Gordy and Al Bell. He and Quincy Jones always worked for, and you could see that in the Black Godfather. They always worked for powerful whites in the industry. Nothing wrong with that. But the blacks who created jobs for black people and who worked within and for the black community was Berry Gordy and Al Bell.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820. The largest progressive talk radio station in the country, AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want you to meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Hey, Linear Bob. Hey, Daryl. Hey, Andre. Hey, Raphael. Hey, Dave. Hey, Jewel. Sending you all so much love today. And Robert and Ashley King down in Memphis, Tennessee. Love it, love it, love it. Oh, my God, brother Andre. Paula. How you doing, girly? Newport 348, and so many of you. Hey, Joyce. Hey, everybody. Call me at 773-763-9278 as we've been talking about labor and the state of labor in this Labor Day weekend. But let's talk about this Trump trial. It is taking, there are so many twists and turns that this is taking, and we had to figure that this was going to happen. But why is President Trump, former President Trump, trying to separate himself from the other co-defendants who want a speedy trial, some of whom want a speedy trial? He said, no, I want to take my time. Will that happen? Will that work? What's the strategy? And Governor Kemp said, no, I'm not going to call a special legislative session so that we can go after prosecutor Fani Willis. What was that about? It's interesting. Greg Powell's movies show that his is the first slave holding family in Georgia. Slavery was illegal in Georgia until his family brought the enslaved people in. Don't ever forget that. Let's get to some of these headlines, everybody. Donald Trump pleaded not guilty in the Georgia election case yesterday. The written plea means that former President Trump won't return to Atlanta on Wednesday when arraignment hearings for him and 18 co-defendants are scheduled. Senator Mitch McConnell, the minority leader in the U.S. Senate, released a letter saying he's medically clear to work. The Senate minority leader froze again while speaking in public this past week. A lot of people are very concerned about him. They're wondering if he has outstanding health issues that he has not disclosed, or if it's his age or if it's a combination of the two. Well, it turns out that the attending physician of Congress said that he is medically clear to work. Not quite sure what that means, but he is back at work, everybody. They say that he will be attending meetings and legislative sessions. The Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas reported 3 trips on a private jet. His latest financial disclosure was released yesterday. It confirmed 2022 trips on billionaire Republican donor Harlan Crow's plane. It turns out Justice Thomas said that he had been advised not to fly commercially, that it was a safety concern. So we'll see what this means. But we see that he's had luxury vacations and travel funded, and he's bought several properties from Justice Thomas. So we'll see what all of this means. You know, the people who police and oversee the Supreme Court, it's a Supreme Court. What do you think about that? A record number of families crossed the U.S. border illegally last month, 91,000. The nation's schools are short of mental health workers by 100,000 persons, everybody. In Chicago, we'll have a high of 79 degrees. It will be clear. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 81 degrees and clear with some clouds throughout the day. Major League Baseball, the Twins will be playing the Rangers. The Cubs will be playing Cincinnati. The Tigers will be facing off against the White Sox. And in the WNBA, we'll have a hot few days, everybody. The Liberty will be facing off against the Sky on Sunday. If there are tickets available, go on out there and support these great athletes. And the Dream will be facing the Lynx tonight at 7 p.m. Get those tickets, everybody. The U.S. Open, of course, is going through this weekend. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Coco Gauff has been standing up for herself. I love it. In the NFL, the Packers will be playing the Bears this Sunday, everybody. And be mindful of these workers, everybody. The top U.S. CEOs make more in 7 hours than the average workers make in an entire year. And we just heard from Dr. Julian Malveaux, Live Nation, the great entertainment company. It turns out that their CEO made $139 million last year, while the average worker in that company makes $25,000 a year. 5,400 times more than the average worker is what the CEO makes. And just on average, the CEOs make 603 times what the average worker makes in the United States of America. The best states for workers in 2023, California, Oregon, the District of Columbia, New York, Washington, D.C., and the worst states for workers in 2023, Alabama, South Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, and North Carolina. And those are the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. Let's talk about this case. Boy, oh boy, it gets more and more curiouser and curiouser and curiouser by the day as former President Trump moves to sever the Georgia RICO case from co-defendant to avoid a speedy trial. What are the thoughts behind that? Governor Brian Kemp rejected a call to discipline or remove Fulton County DA Fani Willis. What was the move behind that? There are politics and reasons for all of this. And then, of course, former President Trump said he's being treated like one of the Scottsboro boys. You can't make this stuff up. But first, let's start with the meat of this case. Attorney Anastasia Sinat, my dear soror, former President Trump is moving to sever the Georgia RICO case from co-defendants, from his fellow co-defendants, to avoid a speedy trial. What is he asking to do?
He's asking for a delay, honestly. And good morning to you, and good morning to everyone listening. But yeah, basically, Trump's strategy is, instead of going with the rest of the trial, one trial was set for October 23rd. And so instead of going for a speedy trial, he's trying to delay it because he doesn't want to get convicted. He's also trying to make sure that he can get his case removed. He already tried to get his case removed in the New York situation, where he was getting it removed from the state situation to the federal court. He's also trying to delay for that purpose. But, I don't think that the judge is going to be able to grant that severance, because I think the way that the district attorney, Fani Willis, put the case together, all these little things add up, and all of these things are much smoother on the taxpayer if it goes together. So I don't think he's going to be able to win a severance of his case.
What do you think, everybody? Do you think, what is he looking to do? Attorney Darrell Jones.
Yeah, good morning, Santita. It's really interesting, picking apart and analyzing what the Trump attorneys are advising them to do in the Georgia case. Now, I agree with Attorney Nod that certainly there's a delay tactic that's there, but I think that maybe from a trial tactic, one of the things that you want to do is if you can sever your client, particularly for former President Trump, because he's seen as the ringleader. And he is going to be certainly bloodied up, probably by the witnesses that are called and go through the case. So if he's able to delay his trial by severing his case, he'll get an opportunity to watch all the other trials that proceed before him, so that he can more keenly develop a strategy for trial and how to address it. So I think that's a part probably of what's going on there. I agree also that, we're going to see the move to try to move it to the federal court, which really isn't going to help them very much. But because, the same rules are going to apply, the same prosecutors are going to be in place, the judge will change, the same laws are going to be in place, and if he's convicted, he's going to a state prison. So, I don't know the advantage of the federal side, except perhaps if he wins the presidency, he could perhaps go into the whole thing of whether or not he can pardon himself. So the strategy of trying to sever himself in the Georgia case right now, I think certainly would seem as though he wants to see what's going to happen with the other trials. It's a delay tactic politically, so that he can say he's watching, he's seeing, and then he can develop a strategy, and he can also go around and continue campaigning for a while. But other than that, I think that when the judge makes a decision with regards to his severance, the key question is going to be one of judicial economy, versus the prejudicial factors. Are there reasons that he should be separated away from the other defendants? Will he not be able to have a fair trial if he's lumped together with the other co-defendants? And that's going to be a close call, I think, for the judge to make, because of the attention that the former president is going to draw. Not to mention that it'll be easier probably to select a jury if he's on his own, as opposed to, locked in with 18 other co-defendants. So to see what happens there as a strategy, I think that, I've always used severance because I didn't want to be tainted with the other co-defendants that are there. So, his co-defendants may be happy to have him severed, because they may not want to be tainted with his actions coming in at their trial. So it'll be interesting to see all of this develop.
Reverend Dr. Yuri, what do you make of this? I mean, what is the strategy? Do you think anyone might flip as a result of this?
Well, good morning, Santita, to my colleagues. That's also part of the calculus. And I think that's part of the calculus that the district attorney has even considered. While you...
hold on one moment. Reverend Dr. Yuri, I don't know if you're on an earpiece or something. You're not as clear as we need you to be.
Give me one sec.
Of course.
When in doubt, use the handset. How's that?
There you go. Oh boy, that's perfect.
So I think the district attorney has kind of anticipated that there would be some motions to sever. I think part of that is for the DA to be able to see who might be inclined to have their matter resolved, so that they become a state's witness against some of the others who continue to proceed. Now, we do know the former president's going to try to delay it as long as he can to get as close to the main event of the fall election. But still, the issue comes down to remembering. I think the big issue is that the governor has said he's not going to convene this commission to disrupt the prosecution. That's a huge blow. What that basically means is this state prosecution is not going to go away because Fonnie Willis is not going to go away. That probably causes more angst, whether it's a speedy trial by the state statute. Speedy trial, in terms of the constitutional right to a speedy trial, is not really defined in terms of a timeline. It's really kind of a reference point. You can't have an undue delay. You can't have arbitrary tactics to just kind of prolong the prosecution or the litigation. So the president's notion, I think, is partly protecting his self-interest, partly to see what the other witnesses may bring. But I think also from the other side is Fonnie Willis is watching who's trying to get separated so that she can see who's left, who's going to go speedy, because some of the speedy trial requests are not necessarily going to go to trial. They may get resolved shy of trial for a plea bargain to be able to lock them in to testify against other co-conspirators. So it's an interesting criminal procedure problem for those of us who went through law school. You kind of watch the maneuvering. But I think everybody is looking out for themselves, and we're going to see whether or not the venue change is going to matter. To one more thing to Daryl Jones's point about removing the federal court, it does extend and expand potentially who would be in the jury pool, simply because other counties that are not as heavily Democratic as Fulton County would be, those residents would be considered as well. And so just keep watching. I'm still inclined to keep the popcorn ready and the butter hot. Because this was going to go on a little while, and you don't want to miss the plot. Don't show up in the middle of the movie. You got to watch it from the beginning.
Do you think this will go on through the election, or what, Pastor Yuri?
Yes, I think it is going to go into the election. I think there will be reasonable motions from the defense side to say they're just not ready to proceed. And since the former president is the one who has the right to a fair trial, I think judges will have to wrestle with what is a legitimate claim and what is not. So it's not going to be done according to the original schedule. I think in any case, I think you may see delays across the board, which means next summer going into the fall is going to be a pretty full schedule for the former president and the rest of us.
Dwight McKee, what do you make of this? I mean, you have asserted that you do not believe that there will be a lot of the 19, that this group of 19, you don't really see them doing a lot of flipping on each other.
No, I don't see a lot of flipping. Maybe 3 or 4 may flip. I think I agree with what both Daryl said and what Yuri said. It expands the jury pool. I think, which is one of the more important elements of this, is that if you can get in some Republicans in the jury pool, he has a better chance of being acquitted or having a hung jury. And the way to do that is to get out that county, which is mostly Democratic, many blacks. It allows them to bring in some more like-minded constituents who, if they're on the jury, would be more sympathetic to his cause and to his issues. Secondly, if you delay their trial, it goes beyond the campaign season. It may, even though this is doubtful, it may overlap to after the elections if it stretches out that long. I mean, Hunter Biden's case went on for 5 years, so they can extend them as long as they want to extend them. And if that's the case and he actually wins the election, then it gives him the right to pardon himself, at least from 3 of the cases. In the state case, he can't pardon himself, but he have enough momentum then that it would be very hard to convict him, as a sitting president. And then thirdly, he's been very interestingly playing the race card, is that he's liking himself into the Scottsboro brothers, who were, young black men who were unjustly accused. And I think that's having some impact on black male jurors or black male voters, because his influence on black male voters are really rising, and he's at 20% right now, and it seems to be rising every week, because somehow they begin to identify with is, in his mind, the unjustness of his case. And so he's really been doing a job of playing the martyr race card. You know, pretty soon he had one on chain singing the blues. And singing that's the sound of the men working on the chain gang. You know, he is really playing that card.
I'm trying to figure it out, because I have seen a lot of these videos where you have, because I don't doubt this 20% that we're seeing in data of support for Donald Trump. But I wanted to dispel a myth. And just in this moment, they said that Donald Trump supported Reverend Jesse Jackson's 1988 presidential bid, and in fact funded it, underwrote it. That's not true. What they're citing is footage of Reverend Jackson in 1988 going into a Trump hotel with Mr. Trump, who was his host, but he came for a Mike Tyson fight. He was there at the invitation of Don King, who was the promoter of the fight. And it was at the end of the campaign. My father took John Johnson, the founder and publisher of Ebony and Jet magazine, Johnson Publishing, and a few others. And it was an exciting moment. You'd have this historic campaign. Things were winding down, and he was able to take one of his first employers, John Johnson, because my father used to sell Jet magazines. And in fact, the reason you could buy Jet magazines in the stores was because of Reverend Jackson's advocacy, because before that, you had to buy them on the street. Well, that having been said, Donald Trump did not endorse Reverend Jackson in 1988. He did not. What he did do was support the Wall Street Project, which took place more than 10 years later. And Donald Trump was looking at that time to run for president under Ross Perot's banner, which was really an independent kind of right of center, but really independent banner. And he was beginning to gain traction before he made some remarks that were misunderstood, I think, at the NAACP convention. And before, quite frankly, the powers that be pushed him out of the race. So that having been said, I want to establish that, because I keep seeing, now I'm seeing a lot of videos where Judge Joe Brown and others have said, he underwrote Jesse Jackson. That's not true. And what he did do with the Wall Street Project in support of it was grant the Wall Street Project free office space for a year. And for that, we will be eternally grateful. That was a wonderful, wonderful thing for him to do. And he was very, very supportive of the aims of the Wall Street Project to get more Blacks and brown and women on Wall Street, and came to the Wall Street Conference and spoke to that point. He said, there are a lot of rules that have been changed that can help you. You need to know what they are, and you need to go just walk into these rooms boldly and take your place on Wall Street, because you deserve to be there. So I just think it's important, as we're seeing his growth grow, as we're seeing him grow in Black support, particularly in Black male support. I wanted to contextualize their relationship. But Dwight McKee, why do you think, because clearly he reached to the Scottsboro boys, 9 young Black men who were falsely accused of rape, who were convicted, having had a rushed trial, right? That's really like the basis upon which this is happening. What is his appeal? I got less than a minute here.
What is his appeal to?
Black men.
Oh, a couple of them, some is envy, some is they support his policies. I think some feel rejected by the Democratic Party. A lot of Black men, that goal is to be a Donald Trump kind of figure. Private jet, beautiful wife, high profile, $1 billion in the bank, quote unquote. He's not much different to them than Jay-Z, He's Jay-Z without the rap. And so many of them, they covet their lifestyle. Some of them feel like they've been disconnected from the Democratic Party, who was reinvesting in the Ukraine and reinvesting in the migrants. And they feel like they've gotten lost in all of that. Some is just a real sense of their persecuting rather than prosecuting him. And black men identify with that. They feel as if the trial is a pretext to keep him from running. And there are a lot of real reasons that black men feel this way.
Okay, well, I think it's important to bring that out because his support is growing. That was one of the Santita Jackson Show calls at 773-763 WCPT. Back in a minute. Yeah, I think it's important to bring all that up. But boy, I'm seeing more and more. If someone else says, I saw like 3 videos last night where they said, you know, he supported the Jackson campaign in '88. And I'm like, no, he didn't. But you did see footage of him in 1988 because it was toward the end of the campaign. It was that fight that Mike Tyson had that lasted like under 2 minutes or maybe under a minute. Yeah, because it was at Donald Trump's hotel.
That was every Mike Tyson fight.
No, this one was like crazy because I went out to California that night. And when I landed, I was asking the driver, I said, you know, so what happened with the Mike Tyson fight? Where are they with? He said, oh, ma'am, it's already over. I said, wait. It just started. He said, and it ended just as quickly. He said, ma'am, I don't think it took a minute. I said, really? So we started switching through the news channels, and I don't know if it took a minute, really. You know, Mike at that time was a beast. Love Mike Tyson. Love him. So, I mean, so what do you make of that? Well, you know what? I want you all to speak to the Scottsboro assertion. And you know what? Remember, everybody, you can hear every little thing in the background. So if you're moving papers or anything like that, we can hear that. Do you think that was smart? I mean, because it seems like that was more of a campaign play, Dwight.
Do I think it was smart?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, I think it's very smart. I think that the more of a model he can make for himself, the more support he will get. And if he gets black men on the jury and make those kind of arguments, he can become a fairly sympathetic figure to them. Many of them are really disenchanted because they see themselves, you know, as really the last fight and the first fight, and as they watch what's going on with all of these trials, and all of this, what they see is overreach. They really have to identify with him much more than they do with Biden, who they see family being protected by the political process and the judicial process. And they've never had that option to feel protected by the judicial process. So they don't relate to that at all. They relate much to the persecutory part of this process.
So what do you all think? Call us at 773-763-9278. If you just start going through YouTube, you will hear
Back in a minute.
all of that. And that's why I think it's important to bring it all out, y'all. It's important. It is important. Important. So we're going to see. But I certainly would love to hear your thoughts, everybody, about this. Okay. All right. Okay.
You remember O.J. turned himself into the victim on the trial, and the black folk on the jury started identifying with him. When Johnny and them start presenting him as having the evidence played with, and they began to identify with him, and he became,
all right, stand by,
you know, the prosecutor. And a lot of the women on the jury turned against Nicole Simpson.
Well, yeah.
And saw her to go.
Change the world, change the world. We can change can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am green.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. Please meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Let's talk about this. And we were speaking of the Scottsboro defense that was swatted down, but he did put it out there. Former President Trump. Of course, we're joined by the chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition, Attorney Darrell Jones, Reverend Dr. Todd Urey Esquire, senior pastor of the Douglas Memorial Community Church in Baltimore, Maryland, part of the national leadership team at Rainbow Push, Dwight McKee, dean of the Ma'afa Redemption Project. I can't wait to have them on in the next few weeks so we can hear the wonderful things that they're doing with our young Black men. And of course, my soror, the brilliant attorney Anastasi Sanat, the former president of the Illinois Haitian American Lawyers Association. What's your thought, Attorney Sanat, about this, about the use of the Scottsboro, the attempt to use the Scottsboro defense, which of course that because of this rushed, well, of course you had the social climate of the time, and the cultural, the culture of the time. But he said because of a rushed trial, they were wrongfully convicted. What do you make of that, using that case specifically?
I think it's very interesting that the selection of judges in Georgia ended up being with Judge Scott McAfee, because even if he is able to sever the case, Judge Scott McAfee has been on the bench for about 6 months. So his docket is pretty open. So even if he is able to use the defense and let's say it works and they sever the case, he's still going to get a speedy trial, whether he likes it or not, because this judge doesn't have a lot of cases on his docket. I think what's really important here is to see how many people are not coming forward to assist the former president in his defense. If we look at what Brian Kemp, the governor, did, I want to just turn it just a little bit to how Brian Kemp said, I'm not going to call a special legislative session in order to accuse the district attorney who is doing her job. And that's what the GOP has been asking for the governor to do, is to call that special session in order to try to get her removed as District Attorney Fonnie Willis from the case. So there's all these little tactics that they're using, including this defense tactic, in order to try to speed or slow things down, and maybe muddle the waters a little bit. And I think Attorney Darrell Jones brought it up. When it comes to severing the case, how many different ways this would benefit the former president. Not only would it expand the jury pool, it would also give him an opportunity to select a judge that maybe he appointed in the federal place, as opposed to the judges like Emily Richardson, who was elected, and Judge Scott McAfee, who was elected by the people of the state of Georgia. These things need to be considered when we're thinking about how is it that this particular case is going to play out. And I think Georgia, the RICO statute in Georgia, is pretty much similar to the federal statute. So when we're thinking about how is this going to impact the former president in his run, I think these are all the considerations that he's thinking about. Mainly, he doesn't want to get convicted. Two, he wants to get reelected, and hopefully, I think in his mind, someone must have lied to him and said that if he gets reelected, not only could he pardon himself if this was a federal case, but he can't pardon himself, because even if it's removed from the state, and I think Attorney Urey mentioned this, but even if it's removed from the state to a federal judge, it's still a state case. So he won't even be able to pardon himself if he is convicted of this case. Only Governor Kemp, if he's still in office, would be able to do something like that. So there's so many different ways that his team is trying to defend him. I think it's just impossible for him to overcome this particular case. I think this is a little bit tighter of a case that was put together.
So what do you make of this, Attorney Jones?
Yeah, I think that Fani Willis has put together an extremely strong case, and she's obviously very prepared and ready to go, as she should be. I mean, she's taken it to the grand jury. She's done all the research on it, done all the evidence collection. She's ready to go, and that's what she's demonstrating when she selected the October 23rd date for the trial. Again, a showing of strength and preparedness from the prosecutor's side. But, when you talk about, what former President Trump is trying to do with making his reference to the Scottsboro boys, I think I agree with Dwight in that, he's reaching out to perhaps particularly Black men to say that, I recognize it, I get it. I understand, the similarity of what it means to be wrongfully prosecuted and for people to come after you, for political will or for societal will, whatever, but to be wrongfully prosecuted. So it appears that, he certainly is trying to poison the water and poison the potential jury pool and the potential petite jury that may be listening to his case with regards to making references like that. So, politically, it's probably a very good thing for him to do. On the legal side, I'm not certain that it's going to get him where he wants to be in terms of trying to play that out. So, with regards to the Scottsboro boys reference, I think that's where I see that going. And still, he has a long road to hoe. He's going to drag this out and drag this out and drag this out the best that he can. We're just seeing the first of the motions that are going to be filed, because we haven't even gotten to the change of venues yet, where they're going to try to get it out of Fulton County if he fails and having it go up to the federal court. And there are going to be a whole slew of other motions that are then going to follow. So I think it's going to be a long trial process. I agree with Todd Geary, that you need to go ahead and get whatever you want to get, pay attention, get your popcorn, whatever it is, and watch, because this is going to be a long procedure that's going to be playing out for probably quite a number of months.
Well, I mean, but what about what Governor Kemp did, Todd Geary? Was he covering himself too politically?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. I think there is some sense that he's covering himself politically, because in the meantime, he has to manage the chaos that could erupt in the state house there in Georgia. While this would be a big thing that's got the nation's attention, he still has an agenda that he's got to manage and control as the governor of the state. And so I think there is some self-interest there, but he's the executive. He knows that ultimately it's his determination as the executive on a couple of fronts, not only to determine whether or not Fani Willis should be removed for failing to do her job based on some assessment, which we know she has not done. That's not an issue here. But also, if down the road the former president needs to come back to this governor to get consideration for any potential pardon on a state conviction that might come, I think he's playing poker. He's holding his cards close. He's not responding to the emotion of the moment, and he is just making sure that there's nothing that will stand between him being the executive and letting the former president's issues just work themselves out over time. So, but to the Scottsboro boys' question. I think the real issue is I think Dwight is right, trying to get one or two. Most folks don't even know the story of the Scottsboro boys, so they don't even know how to contextualize it. Mm-hmm. And if they were to look at that historical process of that trial, starting with a false accusation that leads to all kinds of issues in terms of due process rights, that's kind of making a false association. He's good at that. He's good at kind of making himself aligned with folks who have been really denied. But he's got lawyers of his choosing. He does not have an issue with being able to have adequate representation. It's really not his thing, but it is to add a perspective that gives him some sympathy. He's only looking for one. He's not looking to change the whole jury pool. He's just trying to make sure that he gets one out of the 12 in the box that's going to hold the process up so that his best shot because I don't think an acquittal is coming, is that he hangs the jury so that it makes it harder to come back a second time.
So we'll only take one.
Just one. You have to have a unanimous verdict. And the state, Fonnie Willis, has the burden of proving each and every element of each and every count that's beyond a reasonable doubt. So that's going to be a high burden for the state to maintain for what the former president is charged with. But we'll see where it goes, because she's got the charges, she's got the indictment. Now she's got to make the case.
Now, Attorney Yuri, I have a question. The Scottsboro boys, that was the 9 African-American teenagers that were accused in Alabama of raping 2 white women in 1931. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
And so in that particular, that landmark case, right, is what he's using in order to say, don't rush me, right? Don't put me in a situation in which I don't have a fair trial. But it really dealt more with racism than what former President Trump, is trying to establish here. He's trying to use parts of the case, but those 9 African-American males, that was all about racism. You really can't put him in the same box as those 9 teenagers. I think that it's going to be very difficult, particularly in Georgia, for him to, I guess, banter or cater to the black males, because even Harrison Floyd, who's one of the co-defendants, he just got released on Wednesday. He was in jail for 6 days. Everybody else got a bond and they were out. They got a bond with conditions from the judge and they were out. But of course, Judge Emily Richardson treated this black male differently, right? She said that he was a flight risk, even though he has a daughter and he flew in before the president. She also indicated that, he might not be, a person who would come back to court, or he might not appear to be undangerous because he has a charge against him, which has not been a conviction. I think she messed up when she made those comments. She should have made those comments. But I think in stating those things, you can tell that you're in a state that only if you are a black man will those sympathies arise. I don't believe that former President Trump will be able to get those sympathies, not from, blacks that are for Trump. I don't believe that will be able to happen in that jury pool.
Let me go to Howard. Howard, what's on your mind today?
Well, I think that the Scottsboro boy situation should be countered by Trump's treatment of the Central Park Five, where he wanted them executed even though they were innocent, hasn't apologized for it. There's his personal treatment in that situation.
Oh, hey, I lived in New York at the time. I hear you. Because he took out full page ads in the newspaper, Dwight, calling basically, you had to be there at the time. This was 1989.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like there was something, and this was also right after Reverend Jackson had overwhelmingly won New York City in the presidential primary in a very, very hotly contested, divisive campaign. Because then former Vice President Al Gore came in and accused Reverend of being an anti-Semite, emphasized that, and it got very ugly. It was ugly, but Reverend overwhelmingly won the city, even though he did end up losing the state, and we were moving toward getting the first black mayor at the time, which did happen at the end of the year. But it was an eerie something that fell over the city because the city was quite racially charged, and someone who was at the center of these white supremacist rants was Rudy Giuliani. I'm just telling you, I just remember all these folks. So into the breach steps Donald Trump, who people said had just supported Reverend Jackson. It's just false. And he took out these full-page ads calling for the harshest punishment that could be meted out to these boys, even though in the black and brown communities, there was serious doubt as to whether they had done this because their DNA had not been found on the woman. Somebody else's DNA had been found on her. No one's sperm was found on that woman. God bless her. Nobody.
I think Howard brought up a good point that it can easily be countered with the Central Park Five. That's a very good point. I mean, he's trying to argue public opinion at this point by bringing up these cases. He's trying to find someone like Attorney Uri has said. He just needs one, right? In the television series Better Call Saul, you only need one jury member, right,
And
to
they're
go
out
your
there.
way. That hung jury was good.
I mean,
And
they're
it's out
out
there.
there.
There's someone out there.
No, not just someone. There's some ones. Because black men are more and increasingly going for him. They are. Yeah, I mean, I'm watching them and I'm hearing them for a whole lot of reasons. I mean, there are more people who voted for Trump. Most white people voted for Trump, and a nice sliver of the black vote went to Trump. And then a healthy portion of the Latino vote went for Trump, and those numbers have increased. People vote for Trump and they lie. They don't tell you that they vote for him. They just go into the booth and they do it. Most of Trump's supporters made $50,000 a year or more. He did not get these poor white niche voters. No, he got people who made $50,000 a year or more. 2/3 of his voters made $50,000 a year or more. That's it. Like, people lie to you when they tell you they don't watch Fox. Everybody watches Fox. They're the biggest guys in the game. Stop. Folks ain't telling you the truth. And they go on and they go, and they listen to you, lay out your case, and then guess what they do? They go on and vote how they choose, because that is how they feel. I mean, so
what's the song? Smile in your face.
All the time they want to take your place. Come on, backstab. I mean, but you know what? Really, a vote for Trump, I'm not going to take it as a backstab. It's your choice. It's your option. It's your choice. It's your option. Different people. A candidate is a Rorschach test. People embrace different candidates for different reasons. I appreciate that. I do. I don't agree with it, but I appreciate it. I got it, and I'm grown enough to do that. I can accept that. And that's why I said we have to be very careful, because at this time we've got a lot going on, and a lot of people. This divide in America is real, but what is dangerous is that, Dwight, in many ways, it is hidden, because much of Trump's support is hidden. People who support Trump, they don't have the social space to admit that they support him. And here we go.
What I understand, the polls are showing that he's going to win the nomination, even though he has this indictment in Florida, indictment in New York, indictment in D.C., and the indictment in Georgia.
Nobody cares. You can indict a ham sandwich. Not to mention the fact that people don't. You've got Supreme Court. Increasingly, you find members of them are beholden to the oligarchical class. People are sick of that. People don't trust any of these institutions. And they don't trust the judiciary, because guess what? Many of us have been involved with the system and go, And then, so you see the Supreme Court, who oversee themselves, who are beholden to these billionaires. And you're like, are you for real? So wait a minute. All that I thought about all along. You all have not been telling me the truth.
But I did find it interesting how Mark Meadows went and testified in the case to remove his case from the state situation to the federal situation, trying to act as if he would reach all of these reasons for being able to take his case from the state level to the federal level. I'm not sure if Mark Meadows' case will even be removed. So, but I do think it's very interesting that he testified on his own behalf. He didn't have anybody else come in before him to say, yeah, this is something that the office of the chief of staff does. This is something that, as an officer under the president, this is what he's supposed to do. I just don't even believe that they're going to even get to that third prong of, is this even some kind of colorable action, that he was really doing in favor of the president. So when we're looking at the distinction between what are the reasons that Donald Trump has to sever his case, what are the reasons that Mark Meadows has to sever his case and move it to the federal court, who's going to win? I think that Donald Trump tried to move it in New York, and he didn't even testify in that case, and just, this is what we said, this is what we did, and it got denied. So I think in this situation, it's going to be very interesting to watch how Mark Meadows is able to sever himself from Donald Trump and or I guess use the fact that Donald Trump is the ringleader. I think that's going to hurt Donald Trump in the long run, is that in order to get the case settled, he's going to have to use him in order to say he's the ringleader and I was just doing what he said. And that might hurt him as well.
Well, it also might help because he was the chief of staff. He was working for the guy. I mean, it's just,
yeah, that doesn't mean you're allowed to do all this types of politics. I mean, the Hatch Act prevents a lot of federal employees from being able to engage in that type of behavior.
I hear you. I'm just saying that you also have someone who believed you know how it is in the king and the queen's court. Different people for their own reasons present their own set of opinions and perspectives to you. And the people and quite honestly, the perspective that you want to embrace is the one that you embrace. So what he heard was, man, this election was robbed from you. He's like, yeah. It's an opinion. I think that's where it gets a little murky here. But I only have about 4 minutes left, and so I want to hear from everybody before they go. Attorney Jones, 1 minute. What say you about where we are? I just think this is going to get more and more curious, sir.
Well, Santita, I agree with you. It is going to get more and more curious as we proceed. And, particularly, I've always felt as though the Georgia case was going to be the kryptonite for former President Trump. And I believe that because I thought that Fani Willis and her approach and all that she's doing with the RICO statute, it's going to be something that he's not going to be able to overcome. And he's not going to be in a position because Brian Kemp, even if Brian Kemp wanted to help him, would not be able to pardon him because they have a Georgia pardoning commission that would be in place to do that. And he'd have to serve 5 years before the commission could do anything. So he's in a really precarious position when it comes to the state of Georgia. I think he's going to be really interesting to watch this trial proceed because there are so many different turns. It's going to be interesting. And I want to watch it interplay with what happens with Jack Smith on the federal trial because he's going to have all of this going on with all 4 trials going on. He's also going to be trying to run for president. I'll end with this. This is a typical Trump scene. He has sucked all the air out of the room.
All of it.
All the attention of the nation right now is on former President Trump.
All of it. All of it. Reverend Dr. Uri, I've got a minute for you.
Well, I mean, all you can say is ditto. We have to remember. Here's the thing that I think is curious. The state court judge said, "Oh, by the way, we will show the former president's trial live. It will be streamed. You'll have computers. Folks will be able to record." That may undermine Trump more than anything else because he likes being seen. He likes to put his persecution out front and center. He may not want to remove it. He's wrestling now because he doesn't know how to be quiet. He's one of those clients that the right to remain silent, he understands it's his right and he chooses not to. He is going to keep talking. And he's going to talk wherever he has the biggest audience because he believes ultimately that he's not just talking to a jury, he's talking to the voters. And if the voters get a good sense of it, he's going to make his way back to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Oh, Dwight McKee, final minute belongs to you. 1 minute.
Well, one of the things that Johnny Cox was able to do, a bound kind of way, was to turn O.J. Simpson into a victim. O.J. was rich like Trump and famous like Trump. But when they played the card that the evidence had been tampered with, it turned the jury for him because they identified with that. Also, he was able to turn the black women against Nicole Simpson because they had innate bias against her in the beginning of series of Gold Digger.
Well, no, they remember the Jet magazine articles. Hello.
And so against the odds, he ended up being found not guilty in the case, even though nobody believed that was going to happen. All you need is a couple of jurors who can be convinced to be sympathetic to this case for it to flip around.
Plus, you know,
It's
everybody,
not a done deal.
as we just stay here, because I want to get closing thoughts from everybody on the other side on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. These people in the O.J. Simpson jury, they lived in L.A., so they heard lots of rumors about everybody before they even got to the courtroom. Munch on that. Everybody have a great Labor Day weekend. Let us honor working people. Let's honor them. Respect them, honor them. Be grateful for them. Anytime you go into a restaurant and you get served your food, it's clean. It's working people who make that happen. Working people make the world go round. Let's honor them. Let's love them. God bless everybody. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Be well. Be blessed. And be a blessing to someone. God bless you. Anastasia Sanat, do you want to say anything else before we go?
No, I think I said it all. I think it's going to be interesting to watch. I'm just looking forward to watching the live stream, see how it's presented, see how it's defended.
Oh my gosh, this is crazy. Reverend Dr. Yuri, while you got your popcorn and the hot butter and the salt.
All I got to say is I'm gonna share something with Dwight, and I got a 9 o'clock call. So
All right,
we gonna watch it together.
Oh, this will be rich. You know, one of these days we'll have to have a conference call when this is happening and go, ooh, ooh, ooh.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That'll
Have
be
a good
fun.
day, everybody.
I'll do a Zoom call for everybody on the air so we can get on and look at it together one day. I promise you, we will do that, y'all. And Attorney Daryl Jones.
I'm good, but when we're passing out the popcorn, I just want the mixed popcorn from what is it, Miss Garrett's out there that you have in Chicago?
Hello, wait, I can't believe that you, my beloved health nut, that you would be eating something so unhealthy.
There's got to be some healthy aspect to it, I'm sure.
It is. It's popcorn. It's fiber. Oh boy, that's about it. But it is delicious. So, I mean, what do you mean? I mean, it gets more and more interesting by the day. All of this does, Attorney Jones.
Yeah, it really does. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Republican Party within the state of Georgia over this, how deep that divide goes, since, you have the MAGA part of that Republican Party that wants to support former President Trump. And then you have the Kemp and Rappersberger side of it that, Trump came after them, so they're not inclined to do anything to help them out. So, and they're going to see themselves advancing the Republican cause because they think that, Trump cost them elections across the country because of, the wild theories that he was throwing out, saying everyone was after them, the conspiracy theories and all the other stuff. So it's going to be interesting to watch within the state of Georgia if there's now a divide that begins to develop within the Republican Party there, and what does it mean for future elections coming out of the state of Georgia? Will the divide increase? So that's one aspect that's going to be really neat to watch. But overall, for the trial in this, if it remains in the state court as it does, it's going to be an exciting trial to watch. I say from a clinical standpoint, if you're a law student, it's going to be just, an opportunity to see all these different aspects of the law being applied from jury selection all the way through to who testifies, who doesn't testify, and who flips. It's going to be exciting.
Well, but I don't know what they're talking about. He didn't cost anybody anything. Almost 90% of Trump's candidates, according to Ballotpedia, won. He didn't lose. The so-called, and they keep talking about the MAGA Republicans. They are now the Republican Party. People need to stop buying this lie. He has been winning, y'all. I read you that data from Ballotpedia. They literally count all the votes. Nearly 90% of the candidates he ran statewide won. Boom. Pay attention. Stop listening to these talking points from corporate media because they are lying to you. And then on election night, we all get shocked and surprised, or should I say shocked and awed. When if you are really paying attention, you see this choo-choo train coming down the track, and it ain't no light. It's a train.
Mm-hmm.
You don't understand what I'm saying? So, I mean, I'm just saying it might be an inconvenient truth, but it's the truth nonetheless. He did not lose in 2020, in 2022. He won. And again, I keep trying to tell y'all, people are not telling you, they're not telling you the truth about whether they voted for him or not. They voted for him in big numbers for a whole lot of reasons. Some of it is that's why Vivek Ramaswamy is able to run and say 9/11, they lied to us, because most Americans believe that that is true. Most Americans question how we apportion our foreign aid when you will not give any money to the people of Lahaina. Are you serious? $700 per family? And the reports are now coming out. There are 2,000 kids who have not registered in school. 2,000 children are missing there. 2,000. We don't even talk about it. Now they've erected a black barrier, a black tarp wall around that area. And isn't it convenient? Isn't it convenient that only the poorest people were burned out of Maui, who've been trying to hold on to that land for generations? Are you serious? I saw this woman. I'm going to pull that video for you. She said, I am a forced American. She is an ancestral Hawaiian. She said, I am not an American by choice. I'm forced into this. And you all have been trying to move me off my land. And I resent it. People have to get permission to go home. That is what conspiracy theory, that is from the CIA to keep you off the point. That is what they do. People are speculating, and you know what? There's something to the speculation. There's a lot of smoke. Fire is somewhere. And you need to know it. And you need to ask where these children, where are the kids? Where are these children? There's a whole lot of kids not to be able to, they've been able to register them in schools all over the island. But 2,000 they can't find. Really? I'm furious about Lahaina. You can't give them any money. But we can continue to just dig up more money for Ukraine. God bless Ukraine. But honey, we need some money right here. What about East Palestine, Ohio? Biden didn't even go there. Are you serious? That is why he is winning, because that's why Robert Kennedy is gaining great traction. That is why Cornel West is getting traction. Plenty of it. Because they're saying, look, y'all, you can't continue to lie to us. It's not working. It's not working anymore. Sirhan killed Robert Kennedy Sr. Really? That's fascinating. The kill shot was behind his ear. Sirhan was in front of him. Is that another magic bullet? Come on, y'all, stop. Trump won 2022. Nearly 90% of the candidates he ran around the country won. Go to Ballotpedia. It's right there. Go back on one of my shows. Listen to the podcast. It's right there. He's not as unpopular as people keep saying. And just because some corporate media say it doesn't make it true. And you're right, Marianne Williamson, absolutely. But people are having some issues with her, Carol, because they're saying, she's a pro-war Democrat, which she is. She's very, very mainstream, although she's woo-woo, and I love her to pieces. People are looking for something else. They want someone who's going to stand up to this military-industrial complex, big pharma, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and make things right. And so there you have it. Is anyone still there? After I had one of my famous rants.
I was listening to you because you were venting.
No, I get a lot of information, Attorney Sanat, and I've seen a lot of things. And I know that we have been lied to. And I resent hearing the term conspiracy theory because I know it comes from the Central Intelligence Agency. So people who stood there and watched Dr. King's neck get blown off are told that they didn't see what they saw. Jackie Kennedy died at 64. She didn't die, she imploded. She could never say what she saw. All of the powder burns were on Robert Kennedy, which means somebody shot him at point blank range. When you ask the people who killed Malcolm X about their ties to the intelligence community, they suddenly go mute. For real? And that makes me a conspiracy theorist? No, it makes the intelligence community complicit. That's what they did. So call me what the hell you want to call me.
The media? Really,
and the corporate media, they're all in it. They're all in it. They're all in it.
None of this media attention that Donald Trump is getting is hurting him.
Yeah. And it's happening at a time when people are sick of it all.
Him, but it's not.
When he said
it's
fake news,
not hurting him.
When he said fake news, he's a look, he's a marketer. He knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he's been. Before he became a Republican, he was a Democrat. So
he's not really.
He knows how to play to both sides.
He's a businessman, girl. That's what he is. He is transactional.
Yeah.
That's what he is.
He said he wanted to be president. He made it happen. And, the ongoing joke is he wasn't able to keep his spot. But
there was no space on the Democratic side. Let's be real.
But the joke might be on the American community if he gets convicted of all four of these different indictments and still becomes president.
And maybe not. We don't know. Because guess what? Everybody feared LBJ when he came in. Turns out he did a lot of great things. Honey, that's the way politics goes. So don't put your emotion in it. Because I promise you, when these leaders see people trying to break down the gates, they will flip a vote and change their politics.
That's true.
So we need to stop being so emotional about these politics.
I love things but I have to start my day. So thank you so much for having me here.
Love you, girl. Always. Can't wait. I love having my soror with me. Ooh, there you go.
Oh, I love being here. All right. You all have a wonderful day, Morning Stars. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, sweetie. Give my love to your girls. Hey, everybody. It Attorney Jones? You have anything else you want to say? As I've gone off. As they see what she said I vented. I wasn't venting. And you're right, Robert. He was a mixed bag. Everybody is. Ain't nobody perfect. You want somebody perfect? Start with you. Ain't nobody. What's Laura?
Santita, I think I'm good. I'm very interested in continuing to dig down into the Lahaina story, though.
Oh, look! All you have to go on YouTube, because they keep trying to block it. But 2,000 of these kids have not been re-enrolled in school. Remember, the children were home that day, Daryl. They were home that day because they've had some problems with the grid. So they were home and their parents went to work. Those people who followed the government instructions got burned to death. Remember, they could not get out of Lahaina. Remember that? Just go back over the story. It's horrific. And then you give them $700 and it's almost surgical. Maui's a wealthy community, but the workers there, they're not wealthy. It was their place that was burned, no place else on Maui. And when you look at what remained, I was like, what the? Was a bomb dropped? I've seen fires. This looks like something else. And these people jumped in the water. Wait a minute. The people, I follow your directions. No, you won't let me out of Lahaina. Now the people who want to go back home and look at their land, they're not allowed to go home. I want to know where the children are and when are people going to be allowed to go home? And when are you going to get them some money? Get them a few $1 billion. Why don't you do that? $700 per family for the people whose land you stole? America, God shed his grace on thee. Look, you better get right. If you want to be blessed, you better be a blessing. It's not right. It's not right. You're not going to make it right. And people, we need to stop listening to these lies. There are institutions that we never trusted, who we trust now. Why? We don't even question. You better question before they move you out of your house and won't let you get back in there. Because if they'll do it at Lahaina, they'll do it to you. They'll do it to me. They'll do it to all of us. When this woman broke my heart, Daryl, Dwight, when she said, I'm a forced American. Ooh, oh my gosh. It brought tears to my eyes. She said, I can't get any money. I can't get any relief. I got the governor saying, don't come here. She said, the only reason we make money is because of the tourist industry. When y'all don't come to Maui, then when I go to work at the hotel, nobody's there. They're not letting people go home. They're putting them in some little faraway encampment. Are you serious? And you do have the land grabbers coming up in there. People are giving lip service to returning that land to those people. They don't want to return the land to those people. And it's a sin and a shame before God. You ought to be concerned about Lahaina. You need to pray for them every day, and you need to ask questions every day. And you need to ask about the media blackout on it every day. It's disgusting. It's just disgusting. And it's sinful. More than that. I don't do politics. I do God, y'all. Okay? The Democrats have been the vehicle that I've had to use. When Ronald Reagan opened his campaign in Philadelphia, Mississippi, which is best known for being the murder site of Goodman, Schwerner, and Cheney, I knew I had a problem with Ronald Reagan. Reverend Jesse Jackson was the only one who was man enough to step to him and tell him he was wrong. I'm with that. Everybody else got quiet. Oh, we're not going to say anything. Reagan's so popular. Jesse Jackson said, oh, no. My God is more powerful than that. And we're going to run and see what the end's going to be. How about that? What are you going to do today? Are you going to stand up for the people of Lahaina, the people of East Palestine, Ohio? What are you going to do today? You need to do something. Lahaina today, East Palestine today, you tomorrow, me. Trust and believe. Everybody gets a chance to be on the other side of what they thought and what they've seen. You keep on living. God gives you that opportunity. So what are you going to do today? Think about that. Think about it. Those people in Hawaii don't deserve this. They don't deserve this. I want to know where their kids are. Where are they? You don't sound any alarms. You know those children in that house, in their houses. You knew it. I'm furious about it. When I see those humble people coming to those community sessions, they are heart sick. And no one wants to talk to them when we have a media blackout. Are you for real? Gotta stop it. This is not right. God's not going to bless us for being this wicked and cruel. That's all it is. It's wicked and cruel. And Nicole, every day, ask, what about Lahaina? Ask them. They're Americans. Ask about Vieques dropping bombs, giving these people cancer in Puerto Rico. They're Americans. Ask. Look at that. Dwight, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
No, okay.
I'm here.
Do you have anything to say before we go?
You just never came back around to me. My final thought is that I'm waiting to see also how they handle the prosecutor and if they're able to decapitate her. And I don't think the governor can really stop them once they make their mind up to go after her.
You mean the
I
legislature?
watched what they did to the young guys. Yeah, I watched what they did to the young guys in Tennessee and how the legislative there have pretty much silenced all of the opposition. And I'm expecting for some move to be made at the legislative level to silence her or at least to take away a lot of her power. I just can't imagine them allowing a state prosecutor to go after ex-sitting president. It sets such a precedent that anybody from the 50 states then, any prosecutor who does not like the politics of a sitting president has the option to go after him. And I just don't believe they'll let them have that power at a state level, that kind of power at a state level, particularly a black prosecutor.
What do you suspect is gonna? You suspect that she's gonna meet the fate of Marilyn Mosby, Kim Fox? The list is growing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think she'll be decapitated.
Oh, okay, you lost sound. I don't know how, because that's not what it's indicating here. So let me know. I don't know what's going on with us here, but it's been a very interesting week. Well, you know what? We're going to see, because I think we're going to see a lot of things play out, Dwight. A lot of things in Attorney Daryl Jones. See a lot of things play out. We're just living in that kind of time. Everybody like and share the show, like and share the show. It's going to be very interesting to watch all of this play out. And that's why we're paying attention to it every day. One day we'll probably have a special where you all can, where we can meet on StreamYard and everybody can watch it together. How about that? One day it's going to be televised, which is going to be. What do you think will be the impact of television in the courtroom, Dwight? Why a lot of sympathy? You mean like Kennedy and Nixon, right? Kennedy, Kennedy understood Hollywood. So when he and it's very interesting that you mentioned that, Daryl. I mean, and Dwight. Uh, when Kennedy walked into the studio, Kennedy was known as someone who was sickly. Very few people knew he had Addison's disease, but the people on the Hill knew that he battled to stay well. He walked in, he put on weight, He had filled out. He was tanned. I mean, and he looked presidential. And he shocked Nixon and his team, Dwight. When, to your point, when they saw him, they were like, man, he looks fantastic. It's just, but these people understand because his father owned a television, owned a movie studio, so they understood Hollywood. His father understood optics, and optics do matter, Dwight, do they not? Hmm. Well, everybody, I don't know why we've lost sound, but I am still here, and we're gonna go now. But I love you both. Daryl, have a wonderful weekend. Dwight McKee, have a wonderful weekend. I will see you all next week. I'm going to take Monday and Tuesday off, Wednesday also. And you just have a great, great holiday. Great, 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 great holiday. And be safe and just really have a wonderful, wonderful Labor Day weekend. Have a wonderful Labor Day weekend. I love you. Bye-bye, everybody.